Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Hello, cousins.
And together we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, we're finally out of Halloween.
Yeah, that was a lot of horror we had to see, and I guess we have to endure another one.
Well, that's a great segue, Mike. If we talk about the horror.
The horror.
Movie. Well, I had a bit of an epiphany on it, but I guess we'll save that to the end. So
yeah, same.
It's not one I was looking forward to, obviously, given its reputation. And
I think we might both see a surprise heel turn on this one, but we'll see.
All right. So let's just kind of jump right in. So this is released on July 28th, 1995. It was directed by Kevin Reynolds, who has been working with Kevin Costner for quite a while, till this movie. They did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves together. He did The Count of Monte Cristo, which is a pretty good movie, a pretty faithful adaptation of the book. And he did one of my favorite kind of personal movies, a movie called Fandango, about the four buddies. I think Judd Nelson was in it as well, about guys trying to extend their summer with going into Vietnam. Just a really kind of poignant little love story thing, and just a really great art movie that I always enjoyed. Quite a departure from this bloated studio movie, but there we go. This was written by a guy named Peter Rader, who wrote the TV movie Escape to Witch Mountain, Mike.
Well, there you go.
On ABC, and that's about it.
ABC mystery movie? No, it's NBC mystery.
No, it was NBC, yeah.
Right.
That was also picked up by a very prolific screenwriter called David Twohy, who we know from such epics as The Fugitive. He wrote all the Pitch Black movies. Critters 2, the main chorus, that was also penned by David Twohy. But over 50 films to his credit. It's his fault.
Yes.
And it had a $175 million budget. And that's in $1995, Mike.
Yeah, that's comparable to some we see now, but
yeah,
my goodness, that's
adjusted for inflation. That's that's a quarter billion with a B dollars.
Oh my!
Up until Titanic, it was the most expensive movie ever made. So,
and it's all based on sets, possibly, maybe. I'm not going to say.
There was some. Yeah, most of it was shot on sets, but there were some on location shoots around Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of get to that in the making of the movie, but
the Sea-Doo budget alone must have been half of that.
The cigarette budget alone.
Yeah.
All right, so this movie's got a lot of reputation to it, and most of it's fostered by its generous cast. So, Mike, you want to kind of walk us through the principal players?
Oh, I will do that. We have Kevin Reynolds' muse, I guess you could say, our lead, Kevin Costner, playing the Mariner. My opinion on Kevin Costner. He's kind of like one of those guys or gals that picture Rod Stewart or I don't know, Bryan Adams, Phil Collins in their prime. Look, these are rock and roll singers, and they kind of turn into something else, and they become this what I call like wussy kind of loud singing,
home shopping networks singing standards, and Christmas songs. Yeah,
even somebody like Linda Ronstadt. For those of y'all a bit older. 70s icon, did a lot of cover songs, rock and roll, picture the red shorts. I mean, tough gal. And then all of a sudden she appears in a Nelson Riddle orchestration of oldies from the 30s and 40s. And it's like, what happened here? Kevin Costner's all that for me. You got the guy from Bull Durham, Tin Cup, Silverado. I mean, look at this guy in Silverado and then watch him in like this movie. They're almost different guys. I mean, he had a turn. I think Dances of the Wolves. Sorry,
yeah,
Dances with Wolves. Jeez, edit that out later, Justin.
No.
It made him and it broke him at the same time.
He's one of the last movie stars. I think you can say that, like him or not.
Him and Tom Cruise, kind of that same kind of
dying breed. Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of became this, he became just Kevin Costner in all these movies and shows, except for what he's maybe Mr. Brooks is the only one I can think of where he's a bad guy. But every movie he's plays Kevin Costner, and
Right.
this is no exception. Although he seems maybe a touch meaner in this one. He has an attitude problem.
Gruffy and grunting.
Gruff. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Grump. He's a grumpy.
You can measure his career by his amount of grunts.
There's a lot of swings at women in this movie too.
We'll get to that misogyny.
Off-putting.
Here.
Yeah. But anyway, speaking of women, we had Jean Triplehorn, who I get confused with Laura San Giacomo and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. They all seem to be the same person to me. I don't know why. Yeah. But she was in The Firm, speaking of Tom Cruise, and Big Love. I remember her
with Bill Paxton.
That's right, and one of the other stars of this movie. But she was in this movie called Time Code, which I would advise our fans to look it up. It's a really bizarre movie, experimental movie by Mike Figgis. But it had a lot of various stars in it, and it was filmed all at the same time with different scenes and different actors. It was really a neat idea because it was
literally a time code in each little.
Yeah, and they all follow the same exact time, and it's
in real time. Very
cool. It was a real kind of sleeper movie, and she was in that, and she was. Well, I won't spoil it. And Tina Majorino, she was the little girl in this movie Enola, which very clever anagram there. She later appeared in Napoleon Dynamite as his girlfriend who sold hair products.
And her mom went to college.
That's right.
Your mom goes to college.
And she also was in Big Love. She was
that's right.
The fast food place and was one of the fellow Mormons. Okay, and the bad guy. Every movie has a good bad guy, and the Deacon is no exception, played by Dennis Hopper.
Yeah,
it was still coming off his bad guy turn in Speed and Mario Brothers. He was Bowser.
He was the default '90s villain for a long time.
Yeah, and he relished it and hammed it up properly.
Yeah, I can't really tell if he had a good time here or not.
I know, right? It was really tough to tell.
Yeah.
And there was a guy in there I recognized from Dune who was one of the elders. Michael Jeter, I got to give him a special mention. He's known for Sesame Street's being Mr. Noodle's brother, Mr. Noodle.
Of course,
and, yeah. He was in one of the Jurassic Park movies.
He's in the third one, yeah. He
villainy guy, yeah, and I think Green Mile. He's the
little Cajun guy.
Yeah, and
Delacroix.
He's our weird flying guy in this movie to kind of mimic Mad Max. So there you go. If you see any references to Mad Max when you watch this movie, I don't think it's by fault.
No, that was intentional. We'll get to that here in a second.
Yeah, and special shout out to this poor gentleman named Kim Coates. He plays Drifter number 2 in this movie. He has the unfortunate.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, he was also on Battlefield Earth. Let's just put it that way. He's one of our pseudo heroes that explodes himself on top of the glass dome. If any of y'all remember that movie, there you go.
He was Rocco.
There you go. Well, this one he's a drifter, and
Rocco came through.
He's sporting a very strange Irish accent. So, but I think that goes for a few characters in this movie, and we might have an answer for that somewhere in here. Who knows? But there you go, Justin.
Wow.
Oh, Jack Black. Did I mention Jack Black?
I saw Jack Black in here, so you know
he
my
had
feelings
a beard.
about that.
He was kind of in and out. I don't know if this movie was movie before Mars Attacks or was it after?
I don't. I think it was before 3 or 4 years before. Yeah.
So this might have been one of his first breaks. So
he was. I think right around. He was the Demolition Man too, right? So.
That's right.
He's hitting the trifecta. What a jerk. All right, just a couple notes on that cast. So Tina Majorino played the young girls. Anna Paquin was the studio's first choice, but she was an Oscar winner by now and didn't want to deal with this kind of nonsense. I mentioned the default 90s villain Dennis Hopper. He took this only after Jack Nicholson, Gary Oldman, James Caan, Gene Hackman, and Gary Busey. If Gary Busey was in this movie, Mike, let me tell you.
I don't know, man. I might have liked it a little more.
Utah, give me 2.
Yeah, and Lawrence Fishburne was also. They all turned it down, so they're kind of out of guys to cast, and he was kind of
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he kind of came in at the 11th hour and kind of saved it. They had no villain a few weeks before shooting.
Jeez.
Kevin Reynolds and Kevin Costner, of course, had several other collaborations as we talked to earlier, but this one kind of broke the Camel's back. They butted heads quite frequently, and it's rumored, not confirmed, but everybody's pretty well assured of it that Kevin Reynolds kind of walked off set after hitting his frustration level with Costner, and then Kevin Costner more or less kind of directed the last 3 or 4 months of the shoot. The preferred cut came in at just a little over 3 hours, and the studio would have none of that, so they kind of whittled it down to the 135 minutes that you see in this release. But there is a larger extended cut out there
somewhere
for those
maybe it's on dry land.
Yeah, for those masochists that feel like exposing themselves to more of this movie. Kevin Costner sunk, see what I did there, Mike?
Yeah.
Nice. $22 million of his own money into this film just to get it finished. So it's a bit of a passion project for him. Bumping up the writing credits here, we had Joss Whedon, Hollywood Pariah.
Good Lord, that guy.
He's
everywhere.
He came in and did a third act rewrite, but he's mentioned quite famously that there wasn't a whole lot of writing. He was just taking notes from Costner and putting him on the page. Not a good experience for him. Because of its locale and its shooting locations, Kevin Reynolds asked Steven Spielberg, who had done a comparable movie in terms of Jaws, he asked him for advice on how to shoot this movie. And Spielberg says, I got great advice. Don't do it. But he did not heed that advice, and this shoot was riddled with several near deaths. Most of the cast and crew, including all the main characters, were all exposed to some life-threatening injury at one point or another. There were 3 hurricanes that delayed shooting during the event of filming, and seasickness was, of course, rampant throughout the set. So a lot of delays by most of the cast and crew.
You don't mean land sickness?
I do not.
Okay.
This started out as a Roger Corman film, but Roger Corman said there's no way you can make this movie for over $5 million, and he passed on it. And Kevin Costner says, "I'll show you." But that, given the fact that this historic B movie director used this as his original content, kind of gives us some context of where this movie was actually headed. But this was 1995, and we were all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Had a great attitude about movies, and that's it got made. So there you go. 1995 was a good year for a lot of us, Mike. In the movies, we had this came out, as I mentioned, on July 28th. A couple of weeks earlier, you had the Hugh Grant comedy 9 Months. This was a big movie because it was shortly after his scandalous affair with the
Divine Brown. Was it Divine
Brown? Yeah. Cheated on Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah, imagine that.
Imagine that. I also had Under Siege in theaters and Free Willy 2, another water movie. This premiered on the same weekend as the Net, starring our show favorite Sandra Bullock in a essentially a made-for-TV movie about the evils of the internet at the time, which is fun. It's fun to watch all those 90s movies about the internet.
I know, right?
they don't age well. Then the week after this, we had Babe come out and shore up the sleeper movie for 1995 that summer. Biggest box office draws this year was Batman Forever, which we have not talked about yet. This is the Val Kilmer return as the Caped Crusader, followed closely by Apollo 13 and Toy Story. Waterworld ended up coming in 10th place that year, just 3 spots ahead of Congo.
Oh no!
Yeah,
this was Congo was a summer release too.
You had Waterworld and Congo in the same summer.
Oh my goodness!
We lived to tell the tale. On the music scene, Mike, we had TLC with their song Waterfalls. Everybody loved that song. You had Seal with a Kiss from a Rose, which was featured in the Batman movie. Yeah. You had the old Hootie and the Blowfish guys had 2 songs in the top 10. Only Want to Be With You and Let Her Cry.
Yeah. Bob Dylan still collecting royalties from OMDFE.
I'd rather drown in Waterworld than hear those songs anymore. And then you had You Are Not Alone by Michael Jackson.
Oh.
On the rock charts, it was a little bit healthier. You had This Is a Call by the Foo Fighters and Bullet with Butterfly Wings, which is I think that was the #1 rock song for the entire year in 1995. So
the world is a vampire.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the TV scene, Mike, we were watching Singled Out with Jenny McCarthy on MTV.
We were. Well, you were.
Those cringe-worthy dating games ever, featuring the quick wit of Jenny McCarthy, who's the cousin of.
No, don't say it. Not Melissa.
Yeah,
not really. Yeah. Oh my goodness! I thought I vaguely heard that somewhere, and I put it on my head.
Originally from my old stomping grounds, Plainfield, Illinois, which was about 3 miles away from my hometown. So there you go. I probably saw these guys at the mall back in the 90s. Yeah, I think I would remember seeing Jenny, but there you go. So and we were also watching the Xena Warrior Princess.
Were we?
Lucy Lawless and Bruce Campbell, who we talked about a few episodes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucy Lawless.
There you go. A couple of other things of pop culture relevance we could talk about here. This was the year the George Foreman grill debuted, which was cool. We also got introduced to the Frappuccino at Starbucks. This is also the year, famously, that Marlon Brando kissed Larry King on the lips on live television. On Larry King Live.
Wow.
Put
that on my head.
To the horror of all.
The horror. Speaking of the horror. The
horror, yeah. A little company called Amazon started selling books on the internet that year.
Yeah. Everybody laughed at Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, no one thought they'd last. Yeah. We got exposed to blue M&Ms that they premiered this year. Pizza Hut started the stuffed crust pizza fad. I'd rather eat the box that comes in.
They're the ones, yes.
And about 16 million people had the internet, Mike, which is about less than 1% of the population. And our favorite search engine was Alta Vista.
Wow.
Yeah. And when we weren't on the internet, we were reading books like The Rainmaker, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Howard Stern's second book, Miss America, and one of yours favorite, Mike, The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, the book's fine.
Yeah, so given all that, we were probably ready to go to see a movie. So I think we've kind of covered 1995, so I think we should just jump in. See what I did there, Mike?
Yes, again.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you can rent this movie currently for $3.79, but for 80 cents more, you can buy it. Mike, I rented it.
And me too. I didn't want to go underwater.
I don't want to take up the bandwidth on my computer. So there you go. So this is famously called The Turd That Wouldn't Flush, Mike. We'll try to get through it.
I wonder why they got that. Where they got that line from?
All right. So we kind of set the table, Mike. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to see how much a chit is.
There you go. Hit the button. So we kind of start out with the Universal logo, but they kind of turn that into a gimmick where you get the globe and you see like the polar ice caps melting, kind of explaining, how the Waterworld story begins. And there's a little bit of narration. I didn't know who the narrator was, but he explains how the world.
Very briefly, yes.
Yeah, just a couple sentences.
And a word from the science corner over here.
Yeah.
If our poles actually do melt, ice caps from all the polar would probably go about 200 to 300 feet in elevation.
Yeah.
So we would still have about 90% of the U.S. It would be
be
tragic.
Okay.
We would lose D.C. and L.A., which would be good, but we would also lose. We would lose Venice and Charleston, South Carolina. So
we'd be underwater most likely where we are.
Oh no,
we'd be the new coast.
Yeah, we'd be safe up here.
All right.
But somehow that
All right.
That's what we're told in the very start of the movie, and already you're kind of like, okay, well, what's the next scene going to be, Justin?
Yeah.
Is it really going to?
Yeah.
The next scene better be really good if they're going to show me that first. What is it?
You're on track, Mike. Well, it starts out like every epic should start out with urination.
Yes.
Our main hero is urinating into a cup, which it turns out is this kind of steampunk version of a urine processing thing where all they need to go is get to the guys from Dune and get the thigh pads in his still suit. Like, that's where you can process your own urine.
Urine and feces are processed in the thigh pads.
You beat me to it.
But he turns a little crank and converts his urine to drinking water, which, I mean, it kind of sets the tone. It was kind of a neat little thing, but, it's gross. I don't want to see Kevin Costner urinating.
That's right. It was a one use.
Yeah.
Apparently nobody else used it after that.
So the scene kind of opens up with the Mariner. That's just what he's called, and it's Kevin Costner and dressed like a 70s game show. Where did he get those pants?
I don't know.
And he's got like seashell earrings, and anyway.
I like the big metal boots. He was styling it was like he's a fifth member of Kiss.
Yeah, but he's kind of the solitary lone figure out on his little his skiff, his boat, and he gets met by another loner. The world is kind of underwater now, so everybody exists either on boats or atolls or islands and things like that. So it's just kind of a wasteland. And another drifter kind of comes up and kind of steals his little lime tree, and they have some brief conversation about trading and things like that. And then,
it's in Portuguese,
whatever that is. Yeah, they have some brief conversation. They do a little bartering, and then Costner realized that he stole this stuff, and then he goes after him, and that's where we get introduced to the villains of the story. This clan called the Smokers. Like,
Yes.
which are led by the Deacon, played by Dennis Hopper. But they're essentially the bad guys in Mad Max. Most of the scenery and most of the action scenes are modeled after Mad Max here intentionally.
Yeah.
But a couple of those road guys chase them on their ski-doos, and the guy gets taken out. Before he gets taken out, he's mentioning that there's an atoll 7 or 8 miles away where he can get supplies. So he remembers what that guy said and heads out that way after killing the smokers. So he lands on this floating city to barter for some goods, and that's where we get introduced to Jean Triplehorn, who's a shopkeeper, and little girl that she's taking care of, played by Tina Majorino, who's called Enola, who's got a little. It's got some legendary backstory about her. Literally, she's got an ancient map tattooed on her back. No one knows who did it or what it is or when it happened, but it's the legend is that it's a map to dry land. And it's a bit of a stretch if you actually see what the tattoo is. It's just a big.
It's like Chinese characters and a map of looks like the Avatar logo.
Yeah, it just looked like a black dot with an arrow pointing up. There's some characters that have to be deciphered, but whatever. So Kevin Costner is bartering for goods and things like that, and he with his big jar of dirt, which is essentially the dry land, which is the new currency in this new world. So they barter for goods with dirt. He gets his few supplies, and then as he's leaving, he's asked by some of the village elders to breed. They want him for his genetics, and he refuses, and they don't like that, so they kind of take him into custody. As they're manhandling him, they look behind his ears, like, and this was a little disturbing. They realize that he's got some gills back there.
He's a gill man.
He's a mutant, or a muto, as they call him.
Muto.
And they don't like that, so they put him in jail, which is a little hanging.
I think I like Ichthyosapien or whatever.
Yeah,
the guy was the Michael Jeter character was called.
Right. So they put him in the pokey, so he's essentially hanging in the cage over this kind of sludge where they kind of reprocess and recycle dead people to create more dirt.
Oh yes, and then a great thought.
Yeah. So as he's in the cage, the smokers show up and start attacking the atoll, which there's some really cool, I guess, practical effects here and some good stunt work. And they essentially siege the place, and they're on jet skis and they're jumping ramps and they're firing things and blowing stuff up. That was kind of a cool scene. So Helen and Enola are running for their lives, and they're friends with this guy named Gregor, who is played by Michael Jeter. I guess, was that a Hungarian accent, Mike? What the hell accent was that?
I think he was going for Russian, but I'm not
Russian?
positive. Yeah. He's an inventor.
Yeah, he's invented like a hot air balloon. So he accidentally activates it and flies away, and he's like,
he can't turn off the thing. Bye, everybody.
I can't get down. I don't know how it works. Straight out of the Wizard of Oz.
And there was Dorothy. Oh, left behind.
So he kind of green screens away in his air balloon and leaves the two girls behind, and they see the mariner there, and they say, well, if we let you out, will you help us escape? And he agrees. The smokers come in and kind of raise the town, and that's not good. But they do escape, and now Kevin Costner's got these two girls on his boat, and he doesn't like anything or anybody, and especially doesn't like little kids. So the second act,
they're going to have to drink his pee water.
Yeah, which is would be a challenge for anybody. Let's face it. But most of the second act is just those guys making a relationship and him getting a little humanized and coming around to being a little more likable. He's awful, these girls, in the first place. He smacks them around, which that blatant misogyny doesn't play well now. He cuts their hair, which is nice. Which is unfortunate because now they were forced to wear these horrible wigs the rest of the movie. Why not just cut their hair for real? I mean, Mike, could that be
if you're going to invest that much money in a movie, come on, you commit to the bit,
Out of that $175 million, they couldn't find someone to make a good wig.
Where should go? I mean, was the Rock was a little bit after this. Why couldn't they get Sean Connery's guy?
I know. Anybody who's listened to the show for any time know we're notoriously anti-wig. we suffer no wigs. So word gets back to the smoker that this girl is on the run, and they want dry land as much as anybody else. So the plot is essentially that the smokers are trying to pursue the girl, and I like how the deacon says, we're going to save our gas, so no more tractor pulls. But
I feel like half his lines are ad libbed in this movie.
they had to be. No one could write that down.
No.
But they all kind of like sail around in this giant oil rig, and we'll kind of get to that mystery here in a little bit towards the end. So as Kevin Costner and Helen and Enola are starting to form a little unit, a little bond, he sold them on the promise of dry land and just for hope. And then, she confronts him about it. He says, well, there is no dry land. I've never seen it. And she thinks he's lying. So he takes her down miles and miles of depths, Mike.
It was very deep. Yeah.
Yeah. I question the science of the scene, but he pulls her down there and shows like the remnants of some city. And, you see the skyscrapers underneath the water, and he pulls some of the dirt from the bottom of the sea and brings it up.
Weren't you like me? Weren't you hoping it was Denver and it was going to be just like Battlefield Earth?
I was looking for Johnny Good Boy.
Yeah.
Where's Johnny Good Boy?
I know.
But yeah, so he comes back up, and her hopes are essentially kind of crushed. So that's fun. And as she comes back up, we realize that the smokers have found them, and they kidnap Enola, and they burn his boat, and they're left for dead until Gregor shows up in his little air balloon again.
I mean, it was a great scene, but when they're captured, how did the smokers stay underwater that long?
Mike,
none of them had masks or snorkels or anything. Yeah. They were just underwater waiting all this time for him to show up.
And how did she not get the bends from coming up that fast?
Oh, and the diving bell.
Yeah. He essentially turns like a car window shield upside down as she pokes her head under there and sees all this. But yeah,
he puts her in a balloon.
Yeah.
No pressure down there, by the way, guys.
Pressure. Yeah, there's no atmospheric pressure down that deep anyway. That essentially sets up the third act, where so the mariner has developed a bond to the little girl now, so he decides that he's going to go get her. So they all meet up at the remnants of this atoll where the survivors of that first siege, the survivors have kind of got together and kind of resituated themselves, and they're going to do this final offensive. So Kevin Costner leaves to go get the girl, and he ends up single-handedly getting on the boat, killing 50 or 60 smokers quite easily.
That scene, it bothered me. I don't know, somebody you may know it. I swear that scene was copied straight from another movie, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember the movie where the Enola character is saying he can hide in the light of the noonday sun, and meanwhile they're showing a montage of
he has no name. His name is Death.
The mariner's just killing people randomly, like secretly on the boat. It's like it reminded me of a scene from somewhere, and I know where I swear it's copied straight from something I'd seen. I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen this before, and it bothered the hell out of me. Yeah, it was like either a Western or something like that, where
the man who walks alone. There's a lot of tropes they borrow for this last bit of the movie. So
she's so annoying, it becomes like the Ransom of Red Chief of her. It's like just I wanted to slap her. I mean, good Lord.
All right, take it easy. All right, so the scene kind of culminates with the deacons giving this big speech to all the members, all the smokers that are on the boat, and he's telling them that they procured the girl and they're reading the map to dry land, and their long quest is nearly over. So they bust out the oars, Mike, and start rowing nowhere. And as they do that, Kevin Costner kind of confronts them on the deck of the hull, and he's got like this flare that he's going to drop down into the oil well that's underneath, the depth gauge full of oil, and he threatens to blow the ship up. And Deacon says, well, he won't do it, and he just does. He just drops it in there, and the explosions start. Right.
Yeah.
The ship starts blowing up. Smokers get their demise. There's a lot of stunts. There's a lot of stunts in this last scene. What I really liked are there's a lot of convenient movie props.
Spear guns come to mind.
Yeah, there's always a spear gun with like 50 feet of neatly coiled rope. And,
bungee cords, a weight, and the balloon.
There's always a grappling hook when he needs it to repel this. But it's swashbuckling, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you said swashbuckling, because it also includes convenient pirate music every now and then.
Yes, that's when they really turn on the pirate jukebox.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So it ends up with he's getting chased by a bunch of bad guys on ski-doos. The horror, Mike, the horror. And we got three jet skis converging to each other. One is driven by the Deacon, two is by the other main bad guys. and the girl's in the middle, and the balloon picks up
And
Kevin Costner and just in time, and then
plucks her from the water just
and
in
then
the nick of time.
the three skidoos converge and crash and blow up, and
Beautiful.
yeah, it's just wonderful, and all the smokers are dead. It's wonderful, and Dennis Hopper gets killed again. So there you go.
There you go.
And then as like a kind of like a final, just to tack on a little bit of hope here, they just kind of disconnectingly just get back in the airboat and then like fly to dry land, like it's just like right around the corner, and they end up getting on the surface, and it's just like tropical paradise. And
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be implied that that's like in Tibet or like the Mount Everest. That's been
I figured with the like I said earlier, if the kind of the Asian character she had written on her back, it led you to this was I give them that much credit for being slightly clever, and implying that it is from like Central Asia or in the Himalayan plateau or something.
Right. So it makes sense. I mean, the science of global warming has changed a lot in 35 years, so they're 30 years. So I guess that makes sense. What they had at the time was probably the best they could do with it, but. So they end up being on dry land, and that's they're happy, but Kevin Costner's he's a loner Dottie, a rebel, and he can't stay. And I guess the ending is just him kind of getting back on the water and going back out where he belongs. And Tina Majorino has the Shane moment where he leaves, starts crying.
The douchiest scene in the movie is when like he's on one knee sitting on the beach, and he looks around at the palm trees and horses run by. And then he takes a look back at the ocean, and he looks up again. And it's like,
we get it. You want to be on the water. You're half fish. It's okay. You do your thing. You do you, Mariner.
You do you. Go away, please.
So we get the sweeping music, of course, and you see Kevin Costner sailing off into the sunset, silhouetted, and just like Jesus.
I mean, I know these parents sent off their little girl to safety or whatever in a basket of dirt, but they had a line in there saying they must have known they were dying. It's like, wait a minute, don't you want to kind of know what possibly would have killed two healthy, supposedly like people and young parents? What would have killed them?
I know.
To lay right next to each other and die like that, and this. They weren't. This isn't Lost, and Rose and Bernard or whatever. I mean, come on, man.
Or Walt.
Well, no, don't get me started.
But anyway,
I'm so glad that Enola kept shouting out, because I had no idea who Gene Triplehorn's character was in this.
I know, that was fantastic. Right?
I got little kind of flashbacks to Ripley. Ripley.
Yeah, Newt sucks. All right, so I guess the movie's over, but we do get almost 10 minutes full of credits here at the end, Mike. So.
All right.
But
my gosh, it was the longest credits.
It was a long, $175 million.
I know where the money went after seeing it. There were multi thousands of stuntmen and visual artists. It was just wig people. I mean, there were at least 4 different wig designers and stylists.
I hope they never got another job after this.
The Kawasaki Sea-Doo, like I said, they got thanked enormously.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about awards and accolades, Mike, and then we'll kind of talk about our take on the film. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
All right, so this had a $21 million opening for $175 million production. That's not good. And only not making $88 million in its domestic run. It did pick up another $264 million worldwide. And I'm happy to announce that as of 2013, this film has turned a profit.
All right.
It is no longer a bomb. It broke even. It took 27 years to do it, but it broke even. It got a couple of Oscar nominations for Best Sound and some other technical categories, but they lost most of those to Apollo 13. Big at the Razzies, Mike. Razzies love this film.
Yeah.
Nominated for Best Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Director. Picked up a couple wins, primarily the biggest one there for Dennis Hopper.
Best villain,
probably. The Razzie, best supporting actor.
Oh.
Supporting actor seems like a weird term for what he did here. But there you go. Again, this movie's got, it's synonymous with box office bombs and other things like that. But what I did notice in my research for the film that it's kind of turned the corner with a lot of critics, and it's on a lot of people's list for these type of things. So it's picked up. It's kind of shaken off some of its nasty reputation over the years, and kind of built some credibility among certain circles of the film community. So let's before we talk about that, let's talk about our own little film community here, Grumpy Nostalgia, Mike. So why don't you walk us through your grumpy meter here, your take on it the first time, and then your take on your most recent watch and what's changed.
Well, you've got a couple things from the legacy of this movie. There was a Mario Party minigame created in Mario Party 3 called Waterworld, but it's spelled WHIRLED and involves the characters riding in little Sea-Doos. So
That's
there you go.
Pretty clever. Yeah.
And there's also a new game I just found out about called Sunken Land, which is like a video game for consoles and some PC. I think PC capable too, but it's based off Waterworld, but it's a brand new game that just came out, and it's a mainstream game. It's not an independent game, but it's called Sunken Land. So check that out.
All right.
This movie's not as bad as I remember. I think we were prisoners of the moment. I was trying to explain to my son last night. I was like, this movie was a bomb because everybody said it was a bomb before it came out. You had people like Jay Leno and David Letterman, pillaring it on late night TV. And as soon as people heard the price tag of it, and I think that was like, okay. And then I guess the idea of a movie being set just as a guy, I don't know if the people knew about the scene where he's peeing in a bottle or not, but that kind of, to kick off your movie like that, and it's kind of off-putting. But it had a reputation even before it was released, and I think that killed it.
Yep.
Even though it made it, like you said, top 10 for the year, pretty good, and considering the movies that did come out. So
right.
But it wasn't as bad as I remember it. Like you said, the stunts kind of make it. It's, I guess after recently watching Mad Max, you kind of see that, and you're like, okay, this is...
They borrowed, let's say.
They sampled, borrowed, stole,
right?
You name it, what it is. I think, like to say, just there was too many other movies I saw on it. Soundtrack was a little off-putting. Kevin Costner's performance in itself was not terrible, but it was not really nuanced. He was just a grumpy guy who'd never been around people before, and there you go. There were some questions I had, like the science of it really bothered me. Why can't it rain anymore? I mean, there's clouds in the sky. I know there's no land, but rain can still be created from evaporating oceans, and apparently they can't get water from the sky. Is water that valuable? I had a little issue with that.
Yeah.
Other than the polar cap thing, that was stupid. Where do they get all the cigarettes from? If paper is that valuable in this world, and it's a commodity that people will die over, what are they rolling their cigarettes with? Where are they getting tobacco for these cigarettes? Did they find millions and millions and millions of cartons somewhere and just have them stored in this freighter? Is that the idea?
Yeah, we didn't mention that freighter was the Exxon Valdez, so that's kind of a dated thing now. But at the time, that was a huge oil spill.
And apparently, the deacon knew about this guy and was related to him, which was really weird, because if you knew about the story of a freighter running aground, you would guess there must be dry land somewhere if this ship ran.
Maybe not the best captain.
I mean, they put that joke in there just to, I don't know, just to be clever and topical. And like I said, it was like, really? Whatever. Just little stupid stuff like that bothered me. And they have, obviously they had 4 meters of oil left.
Yeah.
And they're running all these Sea-Doos and planes on gasoline. I'm not sure. I didn't see any refinery equipment on this boat. I don't know how they converted oil into gasoline.
Mike, let me correct you. It's go juice, not gas. So sorry.
And it's just unrefined oil in this tanker.
That doesn't work. That's not a thing.
No, it doesn't quite work that way. But I guess we're supposed to just relax and just turn our brain off,
right?
Which is fine. But again, back to the overall movie. For what it is, it's not as bad as people think it is, but it's still not good. But it's I can kind of see where its legacy has improved a little bit. But for the, like you say, practical effects. You got people doing actual stunts. There's no blue screen work really. There's some, but most of it is, interesting.
I think the only CGI element, I think with $175 million, they would do some CGI here, but they didn't. I think the only element was the sea creature that he catches.
Yeah,
that
the big fish, and I guess the underwater scenes, which kind of work, kind of don't. They kind of look Battlefield Earthy.
Yeah,
but yeah, other than that, it's it's okay. It's an adequate movie. It's not a complete disaster like some ones we've seen, but it was okay. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm pretty lockstep with you on your assessment, Mike. I had the same kind of thing. I went to go see this at a beautiful theater, Paramount Theater. I talked about this before in Kankakee, Illinois. Big giant screen. You need to see movies like this. But I remember seeing it with the stigma going in. I thought, oh well, how bad can it be? I remember I was like you. That wasn't that bad. I don't think it was fair to
yeah, it was unnecessarily, like I say, kind of they implanted bomb in your mind before you got there as far as reviews read,
right? So I walked out of that movie. I still wasn't like super impressed, but I mean I probably walked out of there like a 2 out of 5. It was like I didn't hate it, but it's like I know it's like okay, well, so what was feel bad about that? No big deal.
You got to see Gene Triplehorn's butt, so that was good.
Body double. I looked it up.
Oh no,
she wouldn't do a nude scene.
Well, good for her.
All right. So on my second watch, I don't think I'd seen this since that first watch back in '95. I watched it again, and I thought I went up a little bit. I gave it like a 3 out of 5 on my second watch.
Okay.
But I realized I still don't think it's a great movie, but it's significantly better than. It was a 2 out of 5 in 1995. It's probably a 4 out of 5 in 2023. If this movie came out now, it is significantly, again, this is the grumpy part, guys, so buckle in. This movie is so significantly better than a lot of the action science fiction tripe that comes out now.
Yeah.
This has...
Yeah, you're right. I let me apologize to the audience in retrospect, because you're right. We should probably have that as part of our grumpy meter like addendum.
This wasn't good enough for the era that it evolved in, but for what the movies have kind of what we accept as cinema now, this is just as good as like any Marvel Phase 2 Marvel stuff. I mean, this is, I don't know. That's our opinion. We're old guys that think our generation is better than yours, kids, so don't listen to us. But that was my take on it.
Nice. I want to say I did water my plants right after I watched this.
Yeah, I took a shower to wash the filth off, but
this was a dirty movie. I mean,
it was.
Even without the absence of dirt, it was still. I felt kind of. I think it was grimy and dirty.
Yeah, it's nobody smelled good in Waterworld.
No,
and they called it Waterworld too. They called their area. They called the land they lived in Waterworld, which I thought was.
Oh, funny. You're right. Yeah. And they also they philosophize, why do we have arms and legs if we live in one?
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So this movie was shot on the water, as it's the kiss of death for most productions. It's an impossible logistical thing to do. The logistics of shooting on water and all that are nearly impossible to pull off. So we thought, given all that, to still produce a movie of this caliber was pretty impressive nonetheless. So that got us thinking here, Grumpy Nostalgia, what other films are out there that we can kind of talk to? So for this week's installment of You Just Made the List, Pal, we're going to talk about other movies made in or on or underwater that we really enjoyed or did not enjoy. But Mike, why don't we pick 2 or 3, or maybe a couple honorable mentions here? Let's talk about our favorite water movies.
All right. Can I include the scene in Armageddon where they're training with the NASA folks underwater?
No, you can't use that, and you can't use Jaws. I want to challenge you. So
okay, all right. Well, I had to go with a submarine movie. No reviewer worth his salt would it not have a submarine movie in their water selections. Mine will be Hunt for Red October, John McTiernan movie. Set aside Sean Connery's Scottish Russian accent, and it doesn't bother you. They work around it. Don't worry.
Yep.
And it's my favorite Alec Baldwin movie, so there you go for that. and just a great non-war Cold War kind of movie, involving lots and lots of military action and water, and it's
it was a
it's a
movie.
well done movie. It's a grown up movie that is, if it's on TV or somewhere, I'm stopping right there and watching it, no matter what part of the movie it's in. I know it's going to happen, and it's one of the 4 movie posters I have on my wall, so it's in it's in my Mount Rushmore.
That's a great pick.
So there you go.
That's a good one. My next one is a little along the same lines. This is a big one. This is the movie The Abyss from 1989. A movie we tried to cover on the podcast a few weeks ago, but we couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. I think James Cameron has a special anniversary re-release thing. It's in the vault.
Does it have a Disney vault kind of thing?
Yeah, you can't stream this anywhere. But I didn't want to watch it on the extended DVD I have. Nothing works on DVD anymore. But this is really groundbreaking at the time. This is like one of the first movies to really experiment with CGI. They didn't overdo it. They just used it to enhance the narrative, which was a clever thing. It's got Ed Harris and one of the women you mentioned earlier, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. They're kind of at the bottom of the ocean on a rig, and it's a combination of sci-fi and adventure and horror, and it's a neat little movie where they find these extraterrestrial life at the bottom of the ocean, and there's Michael Bihn's in it as well, playing a guy that's he has like not space dementia like Steve Buscemi had in Armageddon, but he gets what they had a term for it, but he goes a little stir crazy on the bottom and flips out with the but just a great movie, groundbreaking visuals, a tight, taut, well scripted action film with the element of sci-fi and horror in there. Just a great film. It's just a beautiful cinematography as well. Just a great movie. But the claustrophobia being under the water like that in that rig is always at every turn, and just it's a fantastic water movie. So that's my first pick, The Abyss by James Cameron in 1989.
Yeah, film nearby.
Yeah,
and
right.
Abandoned nuclear reactor, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
My second pick is this movie is almost totally set on the water. It's called Open Water. Came out in 2003, and it's loosely based on a true story where this couple is scuba diving together around the Great Barrier Reef. They're accidentally left behind by the boat captain, and nobody does a head count, so nobody knows there's
which happens. I as a result, I was reading how often this happens. It happens way more than you think. Yeah.
And then the rest, they're in real life, these two are never found again, but in the movie they kind of show you what they go through. It's harrowing, and it's it's well done as far as very claustrophobic. You just see him treading water, and it's something bad's going to happen, but it's still tense enough to kind of keep you in it. And I think a couple of sequels came out afterwards, but not a bad flick for Open Water.
Yeah, that's a horrible movie. Not in terms of production, but the subject matter.
It's like the 127-hour movie. It's kind of one of those. What's coming, but it's the dialogue and the tension that kind of keeps you in it.
All right. Well, my second pick is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to go with Apocalypse Now from 1979, Francis Ford Coppola, who's one of his gems we talked about on our Halloween series. This is one of his most infamous movies, starring Marlon Brando and Martin Sheen. It's set in Vietnam, and it's essentially a retelling of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, where Marlon Brando plays a rogue ex-military guy that's kind of gone AWOL and kind of starting his own little civilization. He's been Martin Sheen's been tasked to go find him and bring him back, and it's all set on this river in Vietnam. And just the twists and turns, and the scene with the famous opening scene with Robert Duvall on the beach, the Charlie Don't Surf scene. The water plays a role in this film all the way through. They're constantly on the boat. This metaphor. Always
stay on the boat
on this journey through the river, and just a great, not a revelation. This movie is fantastic, but the water theme really kind of sold the theme to me, and that's why I put it on there. So Apocalypse Now was my second pick.
Now the Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
good connection there.
He lost his head in this movie too, right?
Yeah.
That's two beheadings. For those keeping score at home, that's two beheadings for Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, he doesn't meet a good end in a lot of
No.
movies. Even Super Mario Brothers and
Yeah.
Easy
Yeah.
Rider.
Denorganized.
Yeah.
All right, what's your last pick, Mike? And maybe a couple honorable mentions if you have.
Oh, I got one honorable mention. It's called Hard Rain. It's another one that's kind of reach movies. It's not really involving water, but there's a lot of rain, and it has Morgan Freeman as a bad guy, which
Uh-huh.
you got that going for you. That's pretty good. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, has Randy Quaid in it too. But
Russell.
we'll put that aside.
Yeah.
But the movie I'm going with is Deliverance. It
Another
revolves
river.
around the idea of a river being dammed, and these guys are going down the river for the last time before this dam is started up. And it's a real it's a real happy-go-lucky story about four guys going down the river.
That's how it starts. Yeah.
It has Cohagen dies from poor Ned Beatty has his
Ned Beatty with his PTSD from this film. Yeah,
he gets to play have a little animal play, and you find out Burt Reynolds is pretty good with a bow. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you have a bad accent from John Voight. So there you go.
It just checks all the boxes. Just a fantastic movie.
It's so many. It's a lot going on in that one, and it's set in South Carolina / Georgia. So
yeah, pretty local for us. This is you mentioned before. This is one I will always watch.
Yeah.
I remember like flipping through channels and seeing this coming on late at night, super quiet at 12:30, and like, okay, I gotta watch this. It doesn't matter. You gotta watch it. So yeah, that's a great one, Mike. So my final pick here, I have a couple honorable mentions I'll kind of throw in there. All Is Lost with Robert Redford, I thought was a really great movie. He's just kind of left on his lonesome out in the middle of the water. He's like navigating by the stars, and it's just a neat little journey there. But my favorite one is A Creature from the Black Lagoon.
No.
From 1954. And this movie I've always liked for a couple of reasons. One, back when I was a little moviegoer, probably 9 or 10 years old, my local town had a haunted house every year, and it was at an old train station that they repurposed as a haunted house. And we were in a small town, we had nothing to do, so this was a big event. The lines were usually around the block, and to help placate those lines, they used to play like old Universal horror movies on like reel-to-reel projector. And I remember the wait to get into this haunted house was like sometimes hours. And I remember watching this movie in the line outside on a black and white screen with reel-to-reel projector, and just the Halloween theme and all that just kind of consumed me. And to see this wonderful movie that was one of the first films shot in 35 millimeter. It was from 1954, and it was also shot in 3D, polarizing 3D. So you had the red and the blue glasses, so you can still kind of pick up on that. But it centers around these scientists that go to the Amazon and unearth this, like, it's really kind of a King Kong story, because they unearth this like creature. Then the special
the Gill Man,
not as good as Kevin Costner,
not the Mariner, not to be confused.
But just this iconic costume. Everybody knows what the Creature Black Lagoon looks like. He still looks cool to this day. And just that experience of seeing it as a little kid outside on a movie screen, like almost like a drive-in theater phenomenon, was really cool. So, but they're mostly stuck in the Amazonian rivers, and just the threat of him being at every turn is just there, and it's just a great classic horror movie. So.
They bring in the marine land too. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, they do, and it spawned several sequels. And
do they kill him with sodium? I forget how they kill him.
They pour salt on him like a slug. Was Beauty killed the Beast, Mike? But yeah, just a fantastic movie. So there you go. Those are our movie picks, guys. Set on, in, or under water. So if you enjoyed that list, maybe comment on our Instagram page some movies of your own that you enjoyed. We always like to get feedback from our audience. You guys have a lot of interesting opinions, and we always love to hear them. And so comment on some of your own favorite lists on our Instagram posts. So there you go. So speaking of that, you can check out our Grumpy Nostalgia page on Instagram. You can also send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. If you've been listening to the show for quite some time, please remember to hit the follow button, because that really helps with our analytics, and we get more followers, we get more downloads, and we get more opportunity to put out more content. So rate and review.
That's right. Nothing's free in Waterworld.
Yeah. Pull your weight, audience. But we would really love if you guys would rate and review our show. That especially helps for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts. That really generates a lot of traffic our way when you do that. So if you feel compelled to help us out, please do that. So, all right, Mike. So that's going to kind of wrap it up. We got through Halloween. We got to go back to normal movies now. It feels like we're back home again. Just me and you doing our thing.
That's right. No more scary movies, please. This has to wrap it up, right? We've
No more
we got
scary
5
movies.
or 6 in a row. This is
No more scary guests. Let's be honest. We want to thank all the folks that did contribute for our Halloween series. They were all fantastic, and we really enjoyed every minute. And we were so impressed by them. We've asked them to come back and do some or other shows with variable themes too. So if you like what you heard of their Halloween, you're going to hear more from them in the coming months and years. So thanks again for all of our guests. Dr. K, Headbang, Mosh Pit, of course, Molly and Aaron. These guys did a great job, and we really appreciate it. So,
yeah, thank you.
So, Mike, that's going to kind of wrap it up. No more water.
I'm looking. I'm gonna get off here and look for dry land.
That sounds great. All right.
Thank you for listening, and Auf Wiedersehen.
All right. So, Mike, I've spent all my chits, so we're gonna have to call it a night.
What is a chit?
I don't know. It's the worst currency name you could possibly think of. Whatever. All right. So, for Mike, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time.
They're gonna have to drink his pea water.